Pick up. Represent.
Kill people, burn shit, fuck school. Our future here to steer you to what the fuck school.
Yo, what is up everybody, it's your boy Tark coming out today with another After Effects tutorial. And today I'm going to show you guys how to sync in After Effects using Grok and doing 5-point velocity. Now, I usually use 5-point velocity because it looks a whole lot better. And usually what determines what velocity I use in After Effects is going to be mostly the spaces in between the syncs. So usually for Rock, it's a whole lot easier to use 5-point velocity than it is to use 3-point velocity. Now, a big misconception is velocity is only a Sony Vegas thing because you use velocity to sync a lot of your stuff. But velocity is actually the term used for your curves on your graph editors. And it's really easier to work with in Sony Vegas, but this is actually your velocity. Now, if you see right here, I'm using BCC Velocity Remap. You can use this with Twixtor or Destrum, which is a Twixtor plugin. And basically what we're doing here is I have 5 points, 200, 50, 200, 50, 200. Usually a lot of 3-point velocity just includes 200, 50, and 200. But instead of doing it where at the middle point of the clip we have a value of 50, we're going to add another 200, and then in between the two 200s are going to be a 50 mark, thus making a 5-point velocity. This has the effect that the clip slows down, speeds up, and slows back down in between shots. Now this is actually just an example. This isn't how you actually sync the clip. As you can see here, it's just an example. And usually what I'll do is I'll mess with my values depending on the speed of the clip, everything here. And this is usually where I'll kind of mess with everything. And usually I either use this type of velocity or I speed it up. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm actually working on Toontage right now, so this is actually the best time to show you guys how to sync while using this. So in After Effects, whenever you sync, you guys want to get certain beats on a song. So you can use your, if you have a decimal pad, the period, the sound waves indicate that there's a beat right here in this area. Sometimes whenever you listen to it, it sounds like there's a beat where it isn't, and the best way to determine whether there's a beat, if you're kind of unsure, is you can take your gun sound, copy it, use Control-C and Control-V, and then you can just place it where you think your gun sound is on your marker, and then you can listen to it and see if it sounds synced. Okay, so that's perfect. This is obviously a beat, which means that maybe this would also be a beat. So without listening to it, we can already see here that it is another beat. And if your sound waves don't look like this, all you have to do is go to your comp, hit your right click, and go to Rectified Audio Waveforms. As you see here, our waveforms will change. Make sure this is unclicked, and boom. This makes editing a whole lot easier. So let's go ahead and see if the sync worked. It did. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sync the rest of these beats, and then I'll see you when we actually start using velocity to trim our clips. Okay, so I believe that the next clip that I'm using is all singles 5-on. All I know that is a 5-on, so I made sure that we had all the shots ready, and if it's not all singles, then we already have our closing part where we trim the clip next, so that's no big deal. So what you want to do here is you want to go to the first shot, and we're going to go ahead and find the first shot. What you want to do is you want to preview the clip first and make sure that you have everything ready. So obviously that's not the first shot. We start syncing there, it's going to be a problem. So you want to see where he first shoots, and it seems like right here is where he hits. That seems like a 5-on, but okay, whatever. So obviously we have to go way into the clip. Also, players, if you're watching this, please trim your clips. It doesn't. There's no point in having your last life in the clip. But let's go ahead, start here. This seems like it's going to be the first shot in the clip. So we're going to go ahead and Control-Shift-D. This will split the clip into 2 different layers. We're going to disable the audio on this track since we already have audio for it. There goes my Twitter. And we're going to hit Alt and close bracket, or start bracket, so we can trim the clip without having to do anything, or just really just to trim the clip. So Usually with rock editing, you do not want to just find certain beats like I did right here, but there's ways to work around that. So as you can see here, I'm just trimming up everything and kind of like dragging and dropping as soon as I see the shot. You can tell that this won't be a crazy sync because there's some in between frames, but with the good thing about using velocity is that you can slow things down, and it really is easily. Oh, does he miss? So he misses. So here's another thing you guys can do when you see that he misses the clip. All you have to do is just skip the gunshot. And in most sniper clips, you really can't tell. And even if he moves to a certain spot, so there's the quad, and that should be the 5-on, and it's almost a perfect sync. Now another thing that this guy didn't do, Sympathy, you play on a really high brightness, so we're gonna white balance the clip after we sync it, just because it will be a whole lot easier for us. And the clip does end here, so there's no point in having a gun sound here. But if we play this, it should sound correct. So let's go ahead and play this real quick. Now, you could technically sync a shot right here at this big build-up, but I mean, it's really just preference. So we're gonna go ahead and clean up what the clip is now. Okay, usually when I'm using a 60 FPS clip, which I would only recommend you do this for 60 FPS clips because it just looks a whole lot better. We're gonna go ahead and right click, go to time, and go to time stretch, and we're gonna input the value at 150. This slows down your clip by almost, or I guess it's halfway to half, so I guess 75%, if that makes any sense. It's a noticeable difference, but it's not enough to where you're kind of like running the clip at 30 FPS because it's running at half. It looks pretty nice. Okay, so now we're going to start using velocity. Again, you can use this with Distrum or Twixtor. There's just different settings I'd use on Twixtor, so if you're using Twixtor Pro, just make sure that you keep your clip at its frame rate, you turn off motion vectors, and that's usually mostly it. But I'll use some BCC velocity because it is a whole lot simpler. So we're going to go ahead and turn in our BCC velocity, and we're going to go ahead and turn off frame blending because that's kind of like resample in this. I don't know why. It doesn't really work for COD editing, but I'm assuming that it works for some people that don't edit COD. But we're going to go ahead and do this real quick. You can copy and paste this if you want to, or if you just want to just manually hit your stopwatches. And you want to make sure you get somewhat in the middle. I know some people will say you want to sync the middle of the shot to a beat, but again, for a lot of rock edits, it's not that important. So here's your 5-point velocity. Make sure you have all of this selected, and you're going to ease it. And then we're going to mess with the curves. Now, I usually do something along the lines of this. And messing with your graph editor is really just the way the clip is kind of like focused on, how the clip actually moves. So as you can see here, it's perfectly fine using this. Well, actually, it's not perfectly fine using this because it is too fast. So what you're going to do is you're going to slow this down, bring this down all the way here. It's still a little too fast. So what we're going to do instead, we're going to keep this here. We're actually going to bring this down. So instead of it So instead of this clip actually speeding up more towards the end, it's just going to stay slow. As you can see here, it's still a little bit too fast. So we're going to go ahead and make it more slow towards the beginning and the end. And towards the middle, we're going to keep a steady frame rate. As you can see here, we still have a frame where it shoots. And going below all these, making all these go down low isn't a really big problem. It still shoots. So this isn't a big problem. You can go below 40 or go below 50 on your velocity points. You gotta kind of be really careful of the graph editor. So this is actually gonna be a very slow in between shot. But as you can see, it will always end wherever he's about to shoot. So that's actually really what you want to do with any sniping clip. Now, I usually like to keep it to where there's more in between, and like you can actually see him scoping fully, but with this, you kind of have to play to the clip. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and sync the rest of these clips, and then we're going to go ahead and get kind of like into more of the importance of this video when it comes to pre-composing and what I do for pan crop. Basically, the final shot, what you want to do is you want to just use regular, kind of like a 2-point velocity, because we're not trying to speed anything down, we're just trying to slow everything down. We're not trying to speed up, we're trying to slow down. Easy as this. And you want to do 250. And you just want to make your curve like that because it slows a clip down and it looks pretty good. It's not like a really crazy slowdown, and you can still see a majority of the clip throughout the whole entire beat. So now you've done this, what I do is, to make everything a lot easier for me, I pre-compose, and I usually number the clips. So I believe this is the 6th clip in the edit, which it is. And that makes it a whole lot neater. As you can see, this is what I do for a lot of my stuff. I usually just change the color of the comp because it just looks better when I'm editing, and it doesn't look a whole lot of bland stuff. And for pan crop, what I do is I use a method I saw Restrict use, but I kind of make it a whole lot more practical. So basically what you want to do is you want to start your first scale keyframe at 105, and you want to copy everyone at every shot or a synced beat that you have, and then you want to go 2 frames before the 105, and you want to hit 101. You want to do that for every shot, and you can copy and paste this and it should work. Just make sure that your values do go down. If you accidentally copy and paste your 105, it's not going to move. And for the last one, we don't do this because it just doesn't look as right. And in between every shot, we're going to go back to the middle of the shots and keyframe everything at 100. And then when we easy ease this, you'll kind of see a difference. I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of pre-composition stuff because that'd be a different tutorial, but pre-comping all your stuff does make your After Effects run a little bit faster, and it does save a whole lot of time when looking for certain clips. So you can see right here, I'm going to go to a graph editor, and this is how the clip is looking. You can kind of see, if you focus on the middle, that the screen is pumping. And let's go ahead and see what the clip looks. Now, I do not recommend RAM previewing anything without making sure the clip looks good. So I do have another layer, which this is the whole entire edit with a RSMB layer. And we're going to show you how to white balance real quick too, because it looks just awful. So what you want to do is when you see a clip that's like this, it's a little more white, you want to go to levels, and you want to bring basically these values to where they're mostly like touching long lines. As you can see here, clip looks generally a whole lot better, and when you add RSMB, it looks a whole lot better too. And just for a whole lot of quick purposes, usually keep your RSMB render at or RAM preview at 3rd or a quarter, depending on how fast your computer is. So let's go ahead and RAM preview this, and we'll see how this looks. Now it looks pretty good. For a lot of rock editing, this kind of style is really good. And of course, this isn't a full rock edit. There's no effects. This is just kind of a preview with all the clips with RSMB. I'm not going to go into a very whole lot of detail about how to actually make a rock edit other than kind of how just to sync rock. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If there's anything you guys want to see from me tutorial-wise, I'm more than happy to make more videos. This has been Tar. Talk to you guys later, and peace.